Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Andrew and I'm a pastor based in Texas, and on this channel I try to find the strategies and tools to help you live a more meaningful life. And in today's video we're going to tackle what to expect when you're interviewing with a conference to be hired as a professional pastor. So let's get into the video. Alright, so here are the 7 tips to help you get hired in the Adventist church. Now these tips were given to me by other pastors, by presidents, as well as ministerial directors. And here are the 7 tips. So the first tip is you have to go to an Adventist school that has a theology degree program. The second one, during the program, find opportunities with a local church or local church or any capacity to be a spiritual leader. The third tip, make connections with other pastors, chaplains, conference leaders, or other colleagues in the program. The fourth, learn about conferences that you wish to be hired into, meaning their mission and vision statements, as well as their goals. The next one is be genuine in the interview process. The sixth is ask this question at the end of your interview: do you see a fit for me in your conference right now? And the last one is consider having a boyfriend or girlfriend, being engaged, or hopefully, God willing, getting married. These are the 7 tips to help you get hired in the Adventist church. And if you want an explanation, I'm going to get into that now in the video. So the first tip, going to having an Adventist education. So when you're thinking of being hired in the Adventist church, the fast track to be hired in the Adventist church is to go and enter a theology program in one of the schools that we have in North America, also anywhere else around the world. This is so that they understand that you have a theological background and understanding what we believe as a church. A second way of doing it, a slower path into being hired as a pastor in the Adventist church, is going in as a Bible worker, as a Bible religion teacher, or even a program that might have where a conference might sponsor, whether or not they have like a pastoral program with the conference, if you have already a basic understanding of theology of the Adventist church. And the next one is find opportunities. So when conferences go and meet you at your school to hire you, or if you're reaching out to them, they understand that everyone is given a basic foundation of classes for their theology program. And what they want to see is how have you used the gifts and talents God has called you in order to fulfill, or rather to live out this calling that we've been called into. And when you're interviewing them, they want to be able to see that you are out there being a spiritual leader in any capacity. For me, in my case, I went along, I talked to my local police station. I actually did ride-alongs with the cops for about 4 to 5 hours. Since they're in the police cruisers for many hours of the day alone, it was a good opportunity for me to get to know them and talking to them about a lot of things that they wouldn't otherwise talk about. So finding ways to live out the passion or the gifts that God has called you in. And this is a good opportunity as well to learn and to adapt your techniques, whether it be preaching, if you love preaching, singing, Bible studies, evangelism, in any capacity you feel God calling you into. Learn or get opportunities to practice those that art, whether it be preaching, like I said, or any other type of opportunity or any real passion that you have. And this is also ranked in importance by what is importantly, or what is the highest ranking tip given to me by pastors, ministerial directors, as well as presidents. So the first 3 are the top 3 ways that they analyze candidates to work in a capacity as being a professional pastor. So the third one is to make connections with people, leaders, other pastors, chaplains, conference leaders. So this one is pretty much boils down to when conference people are meeting you, most likely you have a connection with somebody. You have a connection with someone that they might know. And because of that, we are working in a space where there's a statistic that says that 1 out of every 6 Adventists have someone in connection with them. Like, you know someone out of 1 in 6 people in the Adventist World Church, you might know someone. So when it comes down to getting hired, a lot of the times it's from word of mouth. And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand. Even though in my case, I was not hired by word of mouth, in a lot of cases, it does come down to who people recommend for certain positions. Now, it's not like God hasn't called you to working as a pastor if you don't know anyone, because if you are recently baptized in the church, or you're coming from a different denomination, or you're coming up from a different worldview, then you might not know anyone, and that is okay. But you need to familiarize yourself with other people. Get to know them. Get them to know you and your name. And not just your name, but also who you are as a person. Because this one leads to the second one, to the fourth one, which is to learn about the conferences. Because when you're going into in a capacity as a professional pastor, a lot of the churches might hire you locally as a pastor, as a youth pastor. And if you're wanting to work as a professional pastor, it's a lot of time that takes out of your day. And so depending on which conference you are wanting to work in, then you have to learn a little bit about what they are as a conference, because every conference has specific goals, has specific missions, has a vision for what they want to accomplish. And when you're interviewing with them, I'm going to make a separate video as some of the most common interview questions to help you prepare for the interviews. One of the things that they like to do in the interview process is to ask you questions about how you can help them to reach their goal. So you can't do that if you don't learn what their mission and vision statements are, as well as their goals. So in this one, it's particularly important for you to look their conference name up and look at what their goals are and what vision and mission they have. Every conference is different. Every church district is different as well. And so I'm going to put down in the description all the conferences in the United States, in North American division, not United States, in North American division, including Canada, which has the name and email of the leaders that you can actually send your resumes to with your cover letter, just to help you out a little bit with getting that information out there, because a lot of the times you might not interview with all the conferences, and so you might be really good for you to put your resume out there and send it to everyone in North America, excluding Mexico. So the next tip is to be genuine. When conferences are interviewing you, when they're coming down and they're sitting with someone, they can tell when someone's pretending to be someone else, whether it be your presentation, your style. They don't want to hire anyone that comes off as not being themselves. It comes down to having integrity, as well as not pretending to be someone that you're not. So if you have a quirkiness, or if you love something, or the point is, conferences can tell if you're pretending or if you're not being genuine. So when they're interviewing you, they really want you to be yourself, and they can clearly pick that up from you. And you never know that the fact how God can open doors in any season of our life. And we have to be genuine with ourselves before we can move in to those opportunities, because God maybe has something for you, but because you're not genuine with yourself yet, He can't offer it to you because you're trying to pretend to be someone else. So lean into who you are and how God has made you, and let that shine in your interview, because conferences can pick that up. The next tip is to ask this question: do you see a fit for me in your conference at this time? And the reason why this is such an important question is because a lot of the times when you're interviewing, a lot of the other candidates come off as, what can the conference do for you? And conferences have a basic benefit portfolio for all their pastors. So if you get hired on as full-time, you will get full benefits, health benefits. You'll get vacation time, usually about 2 weeks. You also will get a retirement account, a 403b. So it's not like conferences don't provide for their pastors. And you shouldn't come into the interview process or even come into ministry thinking that this is a one and done scenario where you are set for life. You are not going into ministry because you want to get rich. You're doing it because you love sharing the gospel with people and you want to be that person in someone's life to be their spiritual leader. That was in my case. I wanted to be a spiritual leader and do this full time to dedicate my life into helping others grow in their spiritual world, in their spiritual life, and that's why I'm doing this channel as well. And so when you're going to interview with a conference, your questions should not be when they ask you, what can you guys do for me? What is it that I'm going to benefit from working for you? Conferences want to see that you have a heart for ministry. You have a heart for people and you're not in it for yourself. The next one and the last one is not a deal breaker. And a lot of people think that this is such a big issue, but in fact it is they're aware of it. A lot of conferences are aware whether or not you're engaged or married or single, and they understand that we all have a different season of our life, whether we want to be single, if we want to be celibate. But when it comes to working in ministry, a lot of the churches in North America are filled with married couples. And so because of that, because we're working as a professional pastor, we are going to be in environments where in those cases we don't have the resources, or rather the empathy that would require in those circumstances. And even though it's not a requirement to be hired as a pastor, it's definitely something as seen as important in the evaluation of who they're going to hire. Because in some cases, why would a conference knowing a district that needs a pastor is full of married couples who are struggling in their marriages, or that there's a lot of couples that are recently married and they're going to hire a single person that's fresh from graduating. They don't have the experience, they don't have the knowledge, as well as the simple reason of temptation, okay? Just being honest with you guys, a lot of the times in churches, when you are put on a pedestal of being a professional pastor, a lot of people see you differently, and specifically single women and single men. When they see you working as a pastor, they see, oh, here's someone that could be a really good spouse. And typically pastors make really good spouses. Not saying anything about other professions, I'm just saying that because of our calling, we have a presuppositions of a lot of things that a lot of other people don't have. Even though I'm not saying that all pastors are perfect either, I'm just saying that in working in ministry, you're going to be faced with a lot of hard decisions and a lot of difficult situations that could be avoided if you were simply yoked with someone else in the ministry. It's definitely helpful to have a partner with you along the journey that understands it can be your support, because if you don't have that support, it's going to take a lot out of you. So being called by God is definitely an honor, and it seems scary to most of us to go into a degree and not knowing that we're going to have a job when we come out of it. But in the end, it's not about the degree, it's not about getting the schooling, it's about the heart open to God and allowing Him to work through you to help people. Working as a pastor is a privilege and an honor, and working in a local church as a professional, getting a paycheck is a huge blessing. And because of that, we shouldn't shy away from the tips that I just laid out, but also not being scared that God doesn't have a plan for your life. If God hasn't called you to work at a conference, but He's called you to work maybe as a social worker, or maybe maybe even as a manager at a restaurant. I'm currently working as a server at a restaurant while I'm doing my master's program right now. And so I feel like even though I'm working as a server, I'm still in a capacity of a spiritual leader because of everyone I'm interacting with. God's call on your life has nothing to do with other people's value by giving you a job, okay? That's primarily what I want you guys to take away from this. The tips are great and they're helpful to understand how the processing of hiring an interview works and what they look for. But if you felt God's call in your life, this is the most important thing you can learn from this video, and that is that if God has called you, there's nothing that can stop you from working as a spiritual leader in this world. If God has called you, do it. And if he blesses you with a professional local job, then that's a huge privilege. But don't let not working at a conference stop you from filling in the calling that God has on your life. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments down below which of these 7 tips was strange to you, and also leave me a like and subscribe. That really helps out this channel a lot. As well as check out this video here that I talk about hypocrisy and how to live a more meaningful life as somebody that we can be trustworthy. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.